Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Greg Freeman, market analyst here at TraderPlanet.com, and these are the market positions for July the 21st, 2010. Now, just to remind everybody, tomorrow morning at 9:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will have the live pre-market open trade review, which I'll be conducting, where you can get into looking at some live trades in real conditions. We'll be reviewing past trades we're already in. So it should be a very good presentation tomorrow. Hope to see everybody out there. Now, getting into our trades for tomorrow, for again July the 21st, our first trade, we're going to again be looking at the British pound US dollar. Now, very volatile trade this morning, but you'll remember I specifically advised everybody to ignore the short-term indicators. You can see that I have very little short-term indicators up on my screen. I suggested that Great Britain US was going to pull back towards that 151.74 area. We can see that it hit a low today of 154. 151.54, and then moved all the way up to a high of 153.11. Myself personally, I booked 120 pips on this trade. Very, very nice trade. Shorts again getting completely stopped out. Just again a reminder, we want to stay away from this short-term stuff and focus on the medium and long term. All we've been doing essentially for the last month or month and a half is only buying the British pound US dollar. Not once have I recommended a short trade, ignored the short-term indicators, and again they've been done very well. So you can see today that we've come down today, got close to the 18-day predicted moving average from Vantage Point, and then bounced clear out of there. This is a great trade. We can see at least 4 or 5 other times that this has happened, going all the way back into the early part of June. We can see 1, 2, 3, about 5 to 6 times this has taken place. So again, we're going to stick with our buy positions. We're going to go back in this again tomorrow. Now, our 18-day predicted moving average, which is our key level of support, 151.40, 152.36, and 152.67, with a close of 152.62. Now, again, our predicted MACD and our predicted true strength indicator basically still above the zero line. That's what we're looking for. Predicted true strength indicator, a very important indicator to be using. This can only be found on the Vantage Point software, which makes this a very unique indicator in my opinion. So again, we want to focus on what's happening here. We know we're a little bit overbought. Every time the British pound US moves lower, we are going to see that as a buying opportunity. Now, our predicted medium and long-term differences, again, are still well above the zero line. We're not in overbought territory. Predicted MACD, again, it's crossing the trigger to the downside, but it's above the zero line, and that's what we're looking at. So now that we've identified, again, our indicators, which way we want to trade this, we're going to go back into that daily report again from Vantage Point, just like what we did last night. Now, working the orders in this particular way can be very, very profitable. We can see here we've got 151.74 is again identified by Vantage Point as a potential predicted low. 153.35 is the predicted high. We can see the predicted high was 153.21. Tomorrow Vantage Point is suggesting it's going to go a little higher than that. So our neural index is still down. Our short-term cross is still crossed to the downside. Now, it's important, I want to take a moment here and again, just have a look at this and show you essentially how not to use the Vantage Point software. Now, looking at this short-term indicator, we can see that we have a cross here. I'm going to put this up just so everybody can see it. The cross is to the downside. Now, how we want to read this is that Vantage Point is saying that in the short term, the pound dollar is going to move lower. But again, it's not saying that the trend is down. It's saying very clearly the trend is up. We can see that this is verified by the predicted, the medium-term crossover. We can see here is cross to the upside. There is no cross to the downside here whatsoever. That would be the sell signal. Now, the long-term indicator from Vantage Point, the exact same thing. We can see that there is no sell signal here. So essentially, the trend is up. If we trade against the Vantage Point medium and long-term indicators, we have less than a 50% chance of being profitable, and that is a reality. So again, we want to stay away from the short-term indicators. We want to use the short-term indicator to our advantage to tell us that it's going lower, and when it gets down there, we want to use that opportunity, just like we did today, to get into those buy positions. So for tomorrow, I think we're going to be watching we're going to be looking for about the 150, 190, 152 area to get into those buy positions. Now that's our first position. Now our second position for tomorrow is going to be in the US Canadian pair. I've talked extensively about this in the Forex Weekly Outlook. Now what's happening here, we've seen, I've drawn these lines here, we've had significant resistance in this 106.80 area. Now you can see if I draw a little line here, if I use the vantage point indicators here and I draw a little line, we can see an equal amount of resistance now building in the 105.80 area. Now again, we've closed at 104.66. We're going to look at our three key levels, 104.39, 104.48, and 104.77. 104.77, that area is going to be our focus for tomorrow. Now we can see that the predicted MACD has crossed over the trigger to the downside. The medium term predicted difference is higher, but the long term predicted difference is still saying it's in a downtrend. That's what we want to focus on. We can see that I've identified these little mini ranges, so we can identify also that 104.77 is a potential entry point for tomorrow. So what we have to do now, we have to look at the vantage point predicted high for tomorrow, and again take a blend of these two rates. We have 105.11, the neural index is turned negative, that's a good indication. 105.11 is our predicted high, 104.11 is our predicted low. So between 104.77 and 105.11, we're going to say we're going to be looking to get into a short on US CAD tomorrow around the 104.80 area. So we're going to nail this area down to a specific area to enter into those shorts. Again, the primary trend with Vantage Point with the US CAD pair, as identified by Vantage Point, is clearly to the downside. Now what I'm going to do is, again, I'm just going to go in and have a look, and we're going to look at the medium and long-term indicators and see what's actually happening here. We can see that the medium-term indicator is still crossed to the upside. The long-term indicator here from Vantage Point, we can see is still crossed to the downside. So we have the medium term to the upside, the long term to the downside. Now let's have a look at the short term and see what it's actually saying. So the short term is actually sitting flat. So it's a very interesting situation here with the US CAD pair, but that's why I've taken the time to identify these trading ranges that we're dealing with and how each time we hit a high, it's lower. Very important to recognize that. So my opinion is, providing the equity and the commodity markets cooperate, we're likely to see a retest of that 103 area. Now that's our second position for tonight. Now our third position, we're going to go into the equity markets because again I'm seeing some opportunity beginning to form there. The S&P 500, we can see here that I've got the medium term crossover is to the upside. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring this up so everybody can see this. We've got our long-term, that's our long-term crossover is to the upside. Our medium-term crossover from Vantage Point, again running flat, but again tipped to the upside. So let's go ahead and look at the short-term crossover and see what's happening there. Our short-term crossover is still crossed to the downside, but it's moving to the up. So basically the medium and the long-term are supportive of the S&P 500 moving higher.